All right, what I have here is my 2006 Honda Big Ruckus PS-250. I just want to do a video giving the bike kind of an overview, how long I've had it, what I've done to it, what kind of maintenance it's had, and for a bike that is 17 years old now, just how well kept, clean, and well maintained she is. So, quick history on the bike. I purchased this from Manassas Honda in Virginia back in fall of 2010. It was traded in by the original owner. The bike had approximately 5,000 miles on it. I took it home. Currently, here in 2023, the bike is just around 25,000 miles. I got to look at the odometer here shortly. The bike's been stored inside, has not been left outside. You see that shed in the background? That's where it lived when I wasn't riding it. So she is very, very clean. Well taken care of bike. As far as the maintenance goes, she got annual oil changes. I really didn't put more than a couple thousand miles a year on it. Mobil 1 synthetic 10W40. Every 2 to 3 years, I would flush the brake fluid, flush the coolant. And at 10,000, around 17,000, and at 23,000, I did the gear oil in the rear hub. So all the maintenance has been done. New belt was installed at about 23,000 miles. I got newer Michelin Power Pure tires on it. 2022 service, I did flush the coolant and flush the brake fluid, so they're both up to date. And about a week ago, I changed the oil. So the bike maintenance wise is in fantastic shape. So what have I done to it? Because you know we never leave our bike stock. So first things first, you're probably looking at the seat. This is the original seat pan. It was sent off to a company in Florida called Sargent Cycles. And what they do is custom seats. So this is not just a cover. The seat was stripped down to the bare pan. Memory foam, the dense motorcycle memory foam, was put on, reshaped, dished a little bit. And then this is a custom cover that I selected to my liking. And you can see the kind of carbon fiber print with the gray welt there. A dramatic improvement. A seat like this is between $400 and $500. Not cheap, but man, it's the first thing I do to all my bikes typically is get one of these seats put on. On the back over here, I have the Batubo shock. All right, I ordered this from SIP Motor Shop in, I believe they're out of the UK. And this is for the Honda Forza, which is a sister bike to this bike, but dramatic improvement on the rear suspension. And again, they're about $380. I have the OEM rear rack. This is a Honda OEM part. Pretty much impossible to find now. I got a used one on eBay about the time I got the bike, and then I took it to a powder coater. I had it professionally powder coated. And right now on the bike, there's a Givi 34-liter case mounted to a plate on there. Those plates those racks are very hard to find. I haven't actually seen one in years. All right, to offset the rear shock, the front forks were taken off, rebuilt. The stock oil was a 5-weight. I put a 15-weight oil in there. It's not stiff, but it's just firm. Good firm ride on the bike. Now that the back end wasn't wobbling all over with the stock shock, it gives you a really nice ride. I got an aftermarket brake rotor on there. Just a wave rotor, nothing fancy. I do have the OEM rotor. It's in storage. Up here at the handlebars, I have these nice hand guards mounted on here to keep the wind off your hands. They're mounted underneath the mirror. I have an Oxford heated grip kit and a USB power port on the handlebars, along with a ram mount and foam mount. So nice heated grips. Weather's a little cool, wind's off your hands. Heat the hand grips here, get nice and warm. Nice setup, again, something I commonly do to most of my bikes. Underneath the seat here by the battery, battery was actually replaced just in 2022. I have a fuse block installed, and if you're not familiar with a fuse block, when you turn the key, the fuse block pulls power. So things like these heated grips and the USB port, they won't turn on when the bike is off. All right, so it's just a small box mounted on top of the battery that's triggered when the ignition comes on. Again, it's something I've installed on many bikes. You never have to worry about leaving your grips on and running your battery down, or the USB port running your battery down. So this is a nice weatherproof flip top. Put the weather cap back on there. Put a phone, GPS, whatever you want on here. Nice setup for going on a ride, a trip. You can see the handlebars, mirrors, everything's in just great shape. I have these clear lenses and yellow bulbs on here instead of the orange lenses. I think I still have them. This part is shared with a Honda Shadow, so these clear lenses were actually pretty easy to find. Right here I have a Stiebel Nautilus. This is a air horn. I forget how many decibels, maybe like 180 decibels. It's wired up properly. It's triggered by the rigger horn switch. When I start the bike, I'll let you hear it. Again, it's something I have on a couple of my other bikes riding around here in DC. All right, the exhaust. All right, the exhaust is really clean. You see how nice and clean that pipe is. So I sent this exhaust down to Florida. Guy Mike down there, and he stripped the exhaust and ceramic coated it. So you see a lot of these are very rusty. This one is still very clean, even though the ceramic coat is probably 8 to 10 years old now. Very clean pipe. Exhaust is in great shape. You see the rear wheel. There's that Michelin Power Pure. Really good shape back there. Very clean bike. Very well taken care of. All right, let's talk about some performance modifications. And mild, nothing crazy was done. So if anybody knows anything about final drive work, I've done some work to this thing. I previously had a 50cc Ruckus. I learned a lot about dialing in a final drive on that bike. So on this bike, what's been done to the final drive? So the 26 gram rollers have been replaced with 21 gram sliders. And the belt was again replaced back in around 23,000 miles. At 17,000 miles, I rebuilt the clutch. Nothing was wrong with it. I just took it apart to replace the springs, so I put new clutch shoes on it. So the clutch was replaced, the clutch shoes were replaced, and with that, I replaced the stock springs with Malossi mild racing springs. When I say mild, the CN250 springs come with 3 sets, and I put the most mild set of white Malossi racing springs on the OEM clutch, and then I replaced the OEM Contra spring with the Polini blue spring. What does all that mean? Well, the lighter sliders keep the bike in a lower gear longer. On launch, the clutch will slip just a little extra, right? It doesn't spin, but it doesn't lock right away. It gives you a little more spin, so you can get a little more RPM. And that Polini spring works off the sliders so that if you roll off the throttle or you hit a hill, the rear hub will push the pulley back out and bring the bike to a lower gear faster. All of this is very mild. It just means when you launch, you get a nice smooth launch. It stays in a lower gear longer before it gets to top end. And if you roll off or you hit a hill, you go back to a lower gear faster. These are the must do mods for this bike. And I'm not kidding, it's a dramatic performance increase. And it doesn't affect the wear and tear. It's all very mild. All right, you know it when you ride it, but you don't hear the bike screaming. She sounds good. And at the very top end, you might lose a couple mile an hour, but overall performance on hills and open road, she's so much nicer. The air filter is a K&N air filter. I'm not even sure you can find those anymore. All right, so that's been in there for about 10,000 miles now. And of course, that's a clean and service filter, right? They're pretty much lifetime. The carburetor If you've been on the forums at all, they tell you about the jet modification. So the stock jets on here are going to be a 40 slow jet and a 98 main jet. Now this bike, this engine essentially, is from the old Helix, the stuff from the 80s. So to get these through US imports, they leaned them out to get through emissions. So a lot of Ruckuses kind of sputter, stammer on start. I replaced the 40 idle jet with a 45 and the 98 main jet with a 102. And what you get now is a nice start, smooth acceleration, a bit more power, right? And again, this is the intended jets for this engine. They were leaned out for emissions. So between the jetting, the K&N filter, and the final drive mods, this is one of the smoothest, quickest, but still very adult, all right? This isn't some trick bike that's gonna wind out. It's still nice low RPM, nice torque. I know my stuff, all right? I've ridden this bike. She's been on trips. She's been up and down the East Coast. She's been from here to DC to Jersey and back to Richmond and back. She's been all over the place, and I'm almost 50 years old. So this was designed and kind of tuned just for good overall performance. And if you ride 2-up, she's definitely got the power to handle 2-up riding. My next door neighbor has a Honda NC700. And not that long ago, I rode 2-up from DC to Baltimore, and he was shocked that we were on the freeway 2-up, cruising to Baltimore, and that the bike was able to maintain freeway speeds. And a lot of that has to do with this final drive mods. And again, the belt and everything, it was all replaced in recent history. Not too much to worry about. I think I've addressed most of the modifications. Now, is she clean? Yeah, she's real clean. Does she have some scuffs here and there? Yeah, I mean, it's 17 years old. So, you know, you get into the paint, you'll see a nick or a rub mark or, you know, a little bit here and there, right? You can't really see it. There's a little paint, touch-up paint there and touch-up paint there where there were some scratches at times. Not too bad. You can see overall the plastic, everything's just in great shape. There's a little mark right here on the plastic, a little white mark. I think at some point some brake fluid got on here. It's been there forever. I haven't really bothered with it too much. But as far as the plastics go, that's the only concern. These headlight housings, you can see how clean they are. You'll see those rusted a lot. And you can see how clean the black is on that headlight housing. Again, the mirrors, the sun came out. All right, the bar end weights. She is well loved. And this bike has really become kind of my identity with the community. Everybody knows the bike. She has been good to me. It is a Honda. 24,497 miles as of this video. And if you're concerned that that's a lot of miles, I've actually seen one of these with over 80,000 miles on it. You got to remember, this is a 2-valve, single cam, low RPM. It doesn't rev out. Revs are what wear motors out. And this one is a nice tractor, diesel, low RPM bike, even with the mild modifications. And with the maintenance, it's nothing to see these things hit 50, 60, 70, 80,000 miles. And beyond. I'm sure that one I saw years back with 80,000 miles is still running with no concerns. So she is in great shape. Let's go ahead and start her up and I'll do a walk around while the bike's running. All right, and that was a cold start. Exhaust, nice and cold, and I'm not burning my hand. All right, so she was definitely a cold start. Not bad for a carbureted bike. She just chugs. These engines, they are tanks. They are great motors. Again, every season, never more than 2,500 miles at most. She would get an annual oil change and screen clean, and always with Mobil 1 synthetic motorcycle oil. So I think total between the yellow 2005 and the silver 2006s, I think about 4,000 of these were imported. I'm not real sure, that's always a number I've heard. So rare bikes. And for the most part, you can get parts through the Honda dealer. Not uncommon to get what you need from a Honda dealer. You go to your dealer, you get what you need from inventory. My local shop here, Coleman Power Sports, if I need parts, usually within a week. A lot of common mechanical parts, but still body parts and accessories. Honda does a good job at supporting their vehicles for a long time. You know, I always talk to folks about, not to knock off-brand bikes, but you're not going to get that kind of part support that 17 years later I could walk in the Honda and say, hey, I need this plastic cover or this bolt and a mirror, and they'll say, yeah, man, it'll be in on Friday. So that's Honda for you. Let you hear that air horn. Some people like it, some people don't. Like I said, commuting here in DC traffic, the bikes that will accommodate that horn, I've definitely put one on. You've seen my GTS here in the background. There's nowhere to put that horn on that bike, unfortunately. Big Ruckus is pretty easy to slap on what you need. So there it is. I would love to hear your comments. Let me hear what you think of the bike. Let me know if you own the bike. There's not many of us out there. I got several bikes. There's my GTS over there. I got a KTM 390 and a Yamaha Super Tenere. Down to 4 bikes. At one point I had 7. I'm getting better. But this has been with me the longest, since 2010. Everything else has been cycled out at this point. So there it is, your 2006 Honda Big Ruckus. It's been stored in that shed and ridden by me since fall of 2010. And I think you can tell by the video, she is in beautiful, just beautiful condition. Love to hear what you guys have to say. And thanks for watching the video.